Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more powerful real-life stories like this one. I never imagined that 5 simple words could carve out everything inside a person until that day in the cafe when Olivia looked across the table and said, "I don't want this with you." Her tone wasn't raised, nor was it angry. It was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that comes when someone has already made peace with their decision to leave. I sat there staring at the thin wisp of steam curling from my untouched coffee, unsure whether to argue, beg, or just stay silent. For a brief moment, I couldn't even tell if she was breaking up with me or giving me a diagnosis I wasn't ready to hear. We'd been together for 1 year, steady, quiet, and uneventful. No screaming matches, no fireworks, just predictable days that blended into one another. I thought that's what she wanted. Stability over chaos. I didn't realize that to her, stability had started to feel like suffocation. I remember asking softly, "You don't want what exactly?" She sighed, her eyes drifting toward the window, as if her mind had already left me. "This life," she said. "The dinners, the plans, the small talk. I feel like I'm living someone else's dream." The words didn't hit me all at once. They came in waves. Because when someone says they don't want this, they aren't rejecting the situation. They're rejecting you within it. She gathered her purse, said she hoped we could still be friends, and walked out before I could even process the cruelty of that word, friends. As if I could ever play the background role in a story where I once played the lead. That night, I sat alone in the dark, replaying our relationship like an endless film I couldn't turn off. Every time she smiled at her phone, every time she pulled away a second too soon when I hugged her, every time I told myself, "She's just tired." I used to believe love faded like sunlight, softly, slowly. But sometimes it's more like a switch flipped in another room, sudden and final. The next morning, I did what people do when they're pretending to be okay. I went to work. I smiled, answered emails, laughed at bad jokes. But inside, there was only silence. Deafening silence. That evening, my phone buzzed. A message from her. A photo of the same cafe where she'd ended things. No caption. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe nostalgia. I didn't reply. Instead, I went for a long walk with no destination, just trying to find the pieces of myself she hadn't taken. Every street corner whispered her memory. I could almost hear her laugh trailing behind me. The same laugh that used to make ordinary moments feel like home. By the time I reached the river, my phone was quiet again. No calls, no messages, just the world moving forward without me. That's when it hit me. She wasn't coming back. And the real pain wasn't losing her. It was realizing how much of my life I had built around someone who could leave so easily. That night, I scrolled through our old photos. Vacations, dinners, lazy Sundays. We looked happy, but then I noticed something I'd never seen before. She was smiling, but never at me. Always at the camera, always somewhere else. That's the cruel thing about heartbreak. The truth is always there, just waiting for the silence to reveal it. I deleted the photos, shut off my phone, and sat there in the dark again. But this time, the emptiness felt different. Not hollow, just clear. Maybe she was right. Maybe this wasn't what she wanted. But maybe I didn't know what I wanted either. And in that clarity, a quiet thought took shape, one that felt calm, steady, and sure. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the blinds, indifferent to whether it shone on something whole or broken. I thought about her words again. "I don't want this with you." And the more I repeated them, the less they sounded like rejection and more like release. Maybe we had both been pretending. Her pretending she still felt something, and me pretending not to notice she didn't. I made my coffee, sat by the window, and started typing a message I knew I'd never send. It wasn't an apology or an argument, just everything I had wanted to say but never did. Halfway through, I stopped, because for the first time, I realized I didn't owe her words anymore. I owed them to myself. So I got dressed and went back to that same cafe. Same table, same empty chair across from mine. Not to relive the moment, but to reclaim it. I ordered black coffee, no sugar, and as I stirred nothing into it, I thought about all the sweetness I'd forced into things that were never meant to be sweet. Then I saw her, Olivia, across the street with someone new. She laughed, the same laugh that used to belong to me. For a moment, my chest tightened, but not from jealousy, from realization. I wasn't shattered anymore, just distant. Our eyes met briefly. She froze, then offered a polite smile, the kind you give to someone who once mattered, but not enough to cross the street for. And that was it. No dramatic closure, no final words, just two people who once meant everything, now reduced to a quiet nod. I finished my coffee and walked out. The air felt lighter. That evening, I finally replied to her old message, the photo from the cafe. My response was just 4 words. I don't want this. No punctuation, no explanation, just truth. Because I didn't want this anymore. The waiting, the guessing, the half-hearted love, the endless convincing. I didn't want a relationship that felt like walking on glass to earn silence in return. What I wanted was peace. And for the first time, I understood peace doesn't come from holding on. It comes from letting go without needing to understand why. Later that night, I quietly removed her traces from the apartment. The sweater on the chair, the mug she liked, the toothbrush she'd forgotten. Not out of bitterness, but gratitude. Because sometimes losing someone creates space for what we were always meant to have. I didn't block her number. I didn't delete our old messages. I didn't need to. They no longer had power over me. Weeks passed. Life resumed. Work, gym, dinners with friends. But this time, I wasn't waiting. Not for her, not for closure, not for another version of the same story. One night, a friend asked, "Would you ever talk to her again?" I thought for a moment and said, "Maybe someday, but not as the man she left, as the man I've become." He nodded, and I realized that was the real ending. Not the breakup, not the message, but the birth of self-respect. Because love isn't supposed to make you wonder if you're enough. It's supposed to feel like home. And if someone walks out of that home, maybe they were never meant to stay. Sometimes I still pass by that cafe. Different people sit where we once did, talking, laughing, believing they'll last forever. I hope they do. But me, I don't crave forever anymore. I crave peace, purpose, and honesty, even if that means walking alone. She once said, "I don't want this with you." And the truth is, neither did I. Not anymore.